a goal, Quishbilly Huddersfield Town! The most famous goal of Quishbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Thank you.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome back to the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. This weekend we welcome not only Ipswich Town to the John Smith Stadium, but also Darren Moore for his first game as Huddersfield Town manager. And we were rewarded with a game full of incident, which revealed the many faces of modern football and ultimately left us all thoroughly entertained. With myself, Matt Shaw, to look back on the game and the past week in HD1, I have my usual anchor. It's Richard Kosi Kosmala. And I was careful. And adding some insight from Carlos Corbrand territory of Ifine Bridge, it's a welcome return to the podcast to Ian KIlroy Silk. How are you doing, pal?
I'm all right, lads. How are we? How are we all going?
We're good. We're good. Good out with Kosi, I think.
Yeah, buzzing. I loved it yesterday. But you know what, Gil, I'm glad you're on. But the one thing I wanted to ask today is not on. Did Pozzard have a little grow of Mr. Burgzorg? I want to know. And we're not going to find out unless he messages in. I'm gutted about that. I was trying to zoom in on it today. What are there? Did you had a look, Matt? Did you?
He crushed his own child to get to Burgzorg. that was the worst thing about it. He absolutely smashed his own young lad. It's disgraceful parenting, but yes. Anyway, speaking of things that are certainly not disgraceful, and that is our sponsor, Magic Rock Brewing. So if you use our code of AHTTC10, you'll get 10% off all online orders at www.magicrockbrewing.com. And remember to get down there on match days and say hello to some characters such as Frosty, the Podman, aka Brady Frost, and co. And I'm sure you'll have a great time down there as well. And speaking of great times, boys, we have Huddersfield Town 1, Ipswich 1. So we'll break the game down because we don't have a lot to talk about this week, really. So we'll probably spend most of the time on the game. I thought it was a really interesting lineup from Darren Moore going with the 3-5-2. It was probably predictable, but I think that's a system which suits us the best. And it was a very interesting dynamic on the left side I picked up originally from quite early on, especially in the first half. And they seemed to stop this sort of midway through the first half towards the second. But the Josh Ruffles and Yuta Nakayama dynamic was very interesting at times, swapping positions. So in defence, Yuta would sort of loop back round into the left-sided centre-back position and Josh Ruffles would stay at left-back. And then in attack, Yuta would sort of underlap him to get and then move out to left wing-back, which was really interesting. It really worked as well in that first half. And it was Nakayama's really incisive passing, which caused a lot of problems for Ipswich. It was sort of the runners, wasn't it? Ben Wiles, Jack Radoni bursting from midfield, and then Burgzorg and Karoma were really energetic up front and causing a lot of problems for Ipswich in that particular first half and really stretching them. Having those two pacey forwards as well, like Josh Karoma and Burgzorg, sort of really helped push Ipswich back and also stop them from being able to play out from the back. And the reason why Ipswich have got so high, and Ipswich are a very likable team this season. They've come up, they play great football. They're a non-offensive club, if you like, unlike some. But they're just a decent club, well-run club, quite likable, and they play good football. But we stopped them from doing so. Ipswich found it very difficult with our high press, and if we didn't get them with the first phase of the press, we tended to get them with the second phase. Which, and a good example of that, Killer, was when Josh Karoma had a chance early on, which was saved by Hladky, and then you just saw the ball dropping. I think you were behind the goal, and I was in line with it. And you just saw it dropping. You thought, that's going in, is that? And then it just hits the crossbar, doesn't it? And then goes over the top. But it was good stuff, wasn't it? Tactically, I thought Darren Moore really nailed it, got it absolutely spot on against Ipswich. And he's had a bit of experience against them last season with the 2 games for Sheffield Wednesday. But for me, nailed it.
I thought he did. I thought he would bang on. You could see what I found it quite unexpected how much of a change it was from Coventry. The second half against Coventry, we kind of swapped to our centre backs being the overload really through the middle and trying to create chances through them, and that didn't really happen at all on Saturday. It was totally different. Have we settled if Ruffles started at left centre back or Hildred did? Because I thought it was Nakayama as a left winger, effectively, or left wing back, and Ruffles a bit deeper, but. To be fair, Nakayama, he was everywhere. He was absolutely everywhere, causing all sorts of problems. And every time we went forward, he was just always involved with it. I thought the game was fantastic. I thought there's not many times when you walk away from a 1-1 draw at home where you've conceded in the last couple of minutes and actually be quite excited about it and looking forward to how the season's going to go. Darren Moore, I think the football we saw yesterday is what he'll want to play going forward. And I thought we had Ipswich number. I expected a lot more from them. Now, they resorted to basically kicking the ball pretty long, like you say, Matt, because of the press from our two strikers so much in that first half that they were just trying to hit it long into George Hurst. And to be fair to him, he actually won he won every header against Hellick. And I can't remember a game where that's happened before. And whilst we did lose that first ball, we were so quick at the back, we just cleaned everything up, and it didn't really look like we were under much of a struggle. But like you said, everything came down that left-hand side for us, unless we were counter-attacking, which we did with the press really well. But the left-hand side between Nakayama and Ruffles was really good. It's reminiscent, I think, of when we had Toffolo and Pippa as wing-backs in the overload, and they were just people filling in for them, letting them go forward and understanding that they could create such a lot for us. And Nakayama offers us that, and Ruffles is clever enough to help him out and cover for it. But there was some very exciting things I saw in the game yesterday.
Mate, Kosi, me and Killer enjoyed that first half in particular, and just there, Hladky made a second save from Josh Karoma as well, which I thought Josh Karoma was going to score. He's about 8 yards out, middle of the goal. And there was a defender on the line, and the keeper's made a second excellent save at this point. But Town cranking up the pressure. You know, before we'll talk about the flashpoint of the penalty, but before then, Town could really have been 2 goals up easily, couldn't they, at this point?
Yeah, there were a good vibe yesterday, I thought, coming into the stadium. Everyone were up for it. I'm really pleased. I think just built on the injury time goal equaliser on Monday night and that as well. And I knew it'd be a good game. Just did. Thought, obviously we kind of criticised. Well, yes, let's be honest. I have probably criticised Karoma a little bit for his performance on Monday night. I think you said maybe looked a bit disinterested, but could have none of that at home. And that today was back to the Karoma that we saw in the lockdown season, and obviously, for bits of last season when Warnock took over, really impressed with him. And Burgzorg, again, he just like he's just such a likable guy. So you've got your 2 best players later on. I'll talk about mine, but fantastic. They were kind of everything that they weren't on Monday night. Really, they were pressing, stretching, and I thought one thing. I'm not the biggest tactician as you guys, but I thought we used the width of the pitch so much more than we have in many other games. Certainly, kind of under Warnock as well. And I thought we tried to play a bit more football before. And Darren Moore's nailed his colours to this attacking football mast, and obviously Jake Edwards kind of nailed him to it as well. So he's got to kind of deliver that. And I did think the crowd responded to that, Matt. I thought everyone bought into it and got behind it. It was a little bit different kind of football. We were moving stuff a lot quicker. Nakayama, like a Rolls Royce. Oh man, it's so tragic that he had to go off as well. And it was just good energy, but we had to do that. I think when you listen to Moore's interviews and stuff like that as well, Ipswich like to dictate the game. They get stuck in. They bring the ball forward, and we give as good as we got. I thought Ben Wiles was good as well, and we're fantastic. But just like anything in it, when you have a good start or keeper, you need them goals, don't you? And that as well when you're on top. But bloody hell, we bumped into Peak, Marc-Andre ter Stegen, call it what you like. Jesus Christ, that guy was just standing on his head, wasn't it? Unbelievable.
He was good with his feet as well. Annoyingly, he had everything, didn't he? He was quite small for a keeper, but he had a great game. And to be fair, we'll mention a Lee Nichols save later. But
do you think that when it dropped onto the bar, do you think he knew it was going over, or was it one of those? Oh my God, it could have made him. From Corona.
I don't think anyone knew. It was like, is that where you gasp, don't you? It's like sharp intake, and it's like, and then
from behind the goal, we were going from behind the goal. They were already going to take the corner. It looked like everyone thought he was going miles over, and at the last moment, thought, "Hang on, he might be dropping in here," and they all suddenly started to react. But I think they thought he was going well over.
Yeah, I did initially, and then it just dipped sharply, didn't it? It's like, hang on, and it's and then, but yeah, I think that maybe set the tone for our. I was going to say
Yeah,
our
Matt.
luck. We probably did have a little bit of luck at times, but go on,
Just to
Cos.
bring in, and I don't think it was the coin toss, was it? Because we came on the pitch. They don't. It's not like rugby where they do the coin toss in the tunnel before the game. I wonder if that's a Darren Moore thing. That I'm fingers. And Kelly, you're going to hate me because you sit in the Panasonic, but I know we've gone on about it for ages and ages. But I just wonder. I want to see more evidence. Obviously, we're going to see it at QPR next up. But you know, when we did come out to that, we were settled. We were set up to play towards the Panasonic.
Switch of ends. Yeah, so you mean the switch of ends, don't you? Yeah, it looked like a Darren Moore thing. Yeah, I think the way the built it was a Darren Moore thing. Yeah. So it was a Darren Moore thing. He commented on it afterwards, and he was like, "Well, it makes sense to go towards the noisier end," and it does. I think the people have asked before, haven't they, the reasons why we line up like that, and the reason that we get is usually because of the sun. There's no sun yesterday, but usually you get a high sun, don't you, in the keeper's eyes first half on a Saturday. But there's no reason why we can't just play that end and then switch when there's no sun, because it's like Sunday League, innit, Killer? You get out in your area first before the other team, and you've kind of like half claimed which way you're kicking, isn't it? But
that's what I thought happened yesterday. That's what I thought happened yesterday. I thought they just accidentally went to the wrong way. But
it just felt like a big game, didn't it? I just felt the atmosphere and the noise. Obviously, a sellout away, and 3 weeks it was sold out before the game, and I don't know, the lights were on, it were arsing it down. One of those. I said on our group, didn't I? I just think it's coming. We didn't get the win, but it just felt one of those special kind of. I'm going to say McAlpine and show me age. Special John Smiths. That it just felt a good. This is why
it felt tense, wasn't it? It felt really tense. I thought like everyone was on edge. I don't know why. It's a middle of the season game. It's not really going to dictate our season, but for some reason, Ipswich started well. I thought the first 10 minutes they were all over us, and at first I'm thinking we're in a bit of trouble here. They should have scored after 3 minutes. They've had a free header 5 yard out and put it straight down Nichols' throat. Anywhere else in the goal, it's 1-0 down, and the game is very different because we're chasing then a team that have won every away game, I think, by 1 goal, apart from the first game. I think yesterday is the first time they've conceded away from home since against Sunderland in their first proper away game. So I expected if that had happened, it's a total different game. But like you say, once we grew into it, the crowd really went at it. They were banging the back at the drum were going, or banging the back of the metal on the back of the stands, whatever it is on the Kilner Bank side, because we could hear that in the Panasonic. You can't hear much else up there, but you could hear that. It did feel like an occasion. It felt like you said that's what Championship football at its best is like. And when it's like that, it's just so good that we're still in this division.
You got to give a lot of credit to Ipswich to Huddersfield is not a short trip either, is it? You know, to sell out Ipswich. I know they're giddy at the minute, at the Ipswich fans, and they're loving football, loving life at the minute. And when you're in that sort of headspace, you know, you do want to travel, you do want to go to games, but to Huddersfield's a long way, and fair credit to them all for selling out. And I'm sure they could have probably sold more because they were quite keen, weren't they? But let's talk about that flashpoint in the first half. So Amari Hutchison went down under a tackle from Sorba Thomas, and I think in real time everybody thought it's going to be a penalty, and you kind of held your breath, and the referee didn't really motion for it, and you're like, he's going to do it, or he's going to do one of those slow, annoying ones, you know, like one of the umpires at cricket, you know, where the slow arm goes up, the slow arm of death, and it just never came, and you're like, what's going on here? And Kosi, you felt that was
well, I'm going to change my mind, Matt.
Have you changed your mind? We were arguing about this last night, and you were like, it's a penalty, the end, it's a penalty, the end.
Well, I watched it back. I watched it back on a replay pretty much straight on. I saw it a few times, but I've seen it again today. Maybe it's the drunken eyes, I'm afraid, again. But what seemed to happen to me, Matt, was that it was one of those, you could have given it, no one could have argued because it looked it. And I'm at a stage now with so much cheating in the game and what's going on. If it looks a penalty, or the referee, I can see why the refs give it, even if you get home and you think, God, it shouldn't have been. I have no arguments for that. It's just them other ones. But you know what, Matt? He got in front of him, but he took a touch of miscontrol, didn't he? Though that it would hard to see from straight away, which kind of veered him. The ball went the other way, so it's kind of, to me, it lost a little bit of control, and I don't know. I didn't think it. I don't think it was now, maybe. But
Killer thinks it's a penalty, don't you?
All right, I think you can look at
unless you've changed your mind in the last.
No, I don't change. I'm a stubborn man. I don't change my mind, or if I do, I never admit it. I just stick by it, and I'll live and die on that. But
Town fan.
I think there's 3 different ways to look at the 3 parts of a penalty shout. I reckon there's when you see it first time round, and now obviously I'm a long way away from that, but it's cutting. And now we think Sorba Thomas were dropped for the game against Coventry because his defensive work isn't necessarily the greatest, is it? Like,
no.
if it's a one-on-one against Sorba Thomas and he's our last man on that side, it's panic stations, isn't it? I am as a fan watching it thinking, oh, we are in trouble here, or he's going to take him down. Like he's always got that look. It's just, or he lets him glide past him, which we might come on to later on with a goal. But he's kind of a panic, and then when he's cut inside of him and he's taking, it looks from where I am, he's taking him down. So and with the pace of it and how the ball went, it didn't change direction from anyone else's foot to my eyes initially, other than the attacker Hutchinson. I think it's a penalty. And then secondly, you look at it again, and then you've got your VAR shout, right? If it's on VAR, to me, I think Sorba Thomas kicks his foot before he touches the ball, even if he does, right? So the second version of it, to me, technically, it's a penalty. But then, if having played football my entire life, I know when a striker's trying to make a bit most of something, and that's what he looked to do. So it would have been soft. But technically, I still think it's a penalty. And I think if they'd have been given it, and I'm like you, I'm waiting for the slow. I waited for about 10 minutes, I think, for him to give it. I was still waiting after the ball would come back into play for a dead ball or whatnot, or a call, whatever the ref gave from it. But it seemed to me like it was a penalty, but one of those where you're kind of frustrated. But realistically, Sorba Thomas shouldn't have got in that position in the start, in the first place. He shouldn't have been allowing him to cut in like he did. And if he'd have given it, the error wouldn't have been in the tackle, but the positioning to allow him to take him on in the first place.
I've not seen my view of it. So I'll rip into my view, Cos, and I'll come back to you. But my view initially was that's a penalty. The guys run across him. When you're an attacker, the best thing to do is to run across a defender. Josh Koroma did it, didn't he? And got one of their guys booked, which I thought was a bit soft, if I'm honest. And their guy, Hutchison, cut inside. And then, like Kosi says, the ball just kind of shifts to the right of him. And at this point, I think he hangs. It's classic Steven Gerrard for me, is this, where the guy hangs his right leg out looking for contact and then goes down, gaming, it's gaming it really. And everyone does it. There's teams do it up and down the country, week in, week out. It's not a go at Hutchison in particular or Ipswich. It's just what footballers do. But people who've watched football for 20, 30 years, well, 30 years like me, absolutely hate it. 'Cause that's not what it was like when we were growing up. You used to have to maim someone to give a penalty away, didn't you? And I'm still like, the jeopardy of a penalty for something so soft is just so harsh. So I hate seeing penalties given for things like this. It's one of those where if the referee gives the penalty, you're like, well, I can't really argue too hard against it, but I don't think it is, but I understand why he's given it. And if he doesn't give a penalty, I don't think VAR changes their mind if there is VAR in the Championship either, because I don't think it's clear and obvious either way. It's just one of those where an Ipswich fan is going to say, shut up, you know about it, Stonewall. And we're going to go, nah, he's chanced it. He's thrown his leg out to go down. It's one of those, isn't it, where whoever you support, you're going to think it's either 100% or not. It's one of those things. And thankfully, we've been on the end of so many crap refereeing decisions over the last 5-10 years since we came up to the second tier. It's just nice to have one go our way, isn't it? Where you kind of think, thank God for that. But bring you back in, sorry, Cos, on that.
Yeah, I just thought a couple of things were interesting. Again, there might be another interview that I hadn't seen that proves otherwise, but I heard a couple of interviews with Kieran McKenna, and he didn't really bitch about it at all. He didn't even mention it. So I don't know whether that's just, and there's positive vibe. We don't want to look at anything. And then their fans didn't really go on about it. Cheat, or refs. That I didn't hear any of that. So, and they had a better view of it probably than anyone, didn't they, where they were. But I think what I'd say, Matt, is it was less of a penalty today when I watched it through sober eyes than it felt.
Wilbur Thomas.
Yeah, than it felt yesterday. But yeah, Thomas's defensive work. It's God. It's glide past, or would you rather have that though, or what we nearly give away that penalty? It's a bit of a
It's like I say, if I'm an Ipswich fan, I'm probably sat here going, "That's a penalty." There's a contact, but as a Huddersfield fan, you're like, "It's not enough contact." Yeah, I mean, you can watch that 10 times and come to a different conclusion, can't you? Unless you're an Ipswich fan or a Huddersfield.
I would believe it, Matt. He was an absolute pain in the ass for us.
Hutchison, yeah, good. He should have been booked for that when he went in on Nakayama, stood in Nakayama. I don't know how he avoided a booking for that. But yeah, he was very good. He was a real menace down the flank. And like I say, we were on about Ipswich fans. I saw a tweet sort of with it posted saying it's a Stonewall penalty. And to credit, a lot of them in the chat were like, no, I don't think that is a Stonewall penalty. He's made a lot of it. And I find Ipswich fans to be quite on the decent spectrum of football fans, the more reasonable and, decent bunch. But we'll come on to that later, Kosi, with maybe some one or two that aren't. But yeah, that was the flashpoint. And then after that, Burgzorg's denied again by that man Gladke, and Town should really be going up in the second half, at least a couple of goals up. I thought Huddersfield Town, that is not Ipswich. And then the second half continues in a similar vein. Hladky denies Karoma. To be fair, that's probably a simple-ish push away for a goalkeeper like that, isn't it? Where he denies Karoma from outside the box. And again, it's Town's high pressing that's causing the issues for them. And that was a real point throughout. It was almost like Wagner was back, wasn't it? With some of that high pressing. It was fantastic. And then here comes the doctor with his follow-up appointment. You know, Nakayama it is who plays him in down the left. He comes inside and it's just a good finish, isn't it? Hits it crisp, hard and low through the defender. The keeper's got no chance with that. I was jumping up and down in the upper tier. Not many were, I'll be honest, in that section. But I love that. And it was sort of typical of Burgzorg's performance. He was such a pest, wasn't he? He's got size, he's got strength, he's got pace. He's just an absolute. If he's heads on it, he's going to be a nightmare for a lot of defenders in this league. And that was certainly a good moment, Killer.
I didn't think he was a striker when we brought him. I thought he was going to be more of a winger, but he looks to me like a bona fide number 9. Like his goal yesterday, it's just a snapshot, really. I know he's cut in on it, but he's hit it pretty quick straight into front post because goal is moving across his goal as he's going across the field. But he's kind of got. Obviously, it's not from nothing, but it's just a snapshot he's done really well at. And now that's a clinical striker's kind of finish. That it's not a winger. It's not Karoma doesn't score like that, really, does he? Likes to take it on his right and curl one in if people are cutting in. Sorba Thomas is similar. But I think we've actually got a number 9. I think we've got one here. And if we give him the game time, which he's bound to get because of obviously the squad size that we've got, he'll score goals. And he is a pest. He's pretty big. He's fast. He's got everything. I don't know why. I don't know actually. I understand how he's ended up with us. I don't know how we've had the clout to bring him in because
I don't know how we knew about him. That's the other thing.
It's that transfer committee's working off. The scouting must be doing its business because he looks a player. He's coming straight away and instantly from the moment he started up front. We look a different team because of it. The pressing that we're doing as well, Matt, it's not just. I think Wagner press was a bit more. Everyone kind of pressed all the time. It were a bit more. We were willing to take you on up top because we've got Schindler and a bit of pace at the back to make up that you can't play over us. But the press that we had yesterday was just clever. Every time Ipswich took a dead ball, they took a centre back to the goalkeeper so they could totally play it out from the back, and we'd let them do it for a little bit. But we sensed when they made a bad touch or when the positioning wasn't right, and then just attacked it. And I imagine if you look at the percentages of successful presses, once we realised they made one bad pass or somebody was out of position, we were pretty phenomenal at it yesterday. We created so many chances from turning the ball over in that front third. I can't remember us doing that in another game in the last couple of years. I can't. And it came down to me, to Burgzorg. I thought he was, like I say, the linchpin of it. And then Karoma being the second guy in. And it was just, it's something very different. And like I say, Moore's been here 2 games now. And very quickly, we've got quite a different style and we're pressing in a different way. And that's where the goal came from yesterday as well. We look a different team, even though we've got the same players in the team.
It was fun. It was fun to watch. It's watching your team press Kosi is just people from Huddersfield get it, don't they? People from Huddersfield thrive on grafting. That's one of the buzzwords, isn't it? Hard work. And when you're pressing like that, that's what you're seeing, isn't it? Hard work in front of you. And that's the sort of thing that Town fans in particular can identify with and get behind, isn't it? And it's certainly a lot of fun. And then Hladky, the goal's great, Kosi. Feel free to talk about it. But the save Hladky then makes from Jack Redoni is ridiculous, isn't it? What an absolute stunning save that is. It's incredible. I mean, Redoni should probably score, shouldn't he? But when the keeper makes a save like that, you can't really blame him much, can you? It's just you'd rather say that's a great save rather than a miss, wouldn't you?
I think the problem is, well, it's not a problem if it's Lee Nichols, but you know, early on when they make a couple of saves, you're just thinking, here we go, it's going to be one of those days. Or if you're a keeper, I can't do anything wrong. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he got the biggest power on it, to be honest with you, but it was quite amusing actually. He kind of nearly ran into the Ipswich fans with anger. I don't think he knew where he was, because he put it in. But what I like about Burgzorg, and again, social media, he can't read too much into it, but he looks like he's enjoying life. He must have reposted on his Instagram loads of times when he's jumped in the crowd. He calls it his family. He says, meeting my family. I thought it was funny. His celebration was brilliant. We don't get enough of that. I know stewards and kills. Did he get booked, by the way, for it? I don't know if he did for leaving the pitch. But
I will check that. I don't think he did, but I will double check it.
Yeah, he got a yellow. Well, it's on my thing as a yellow. I don't know whether that's for that, but I don't think anything else he got booked. But just that nice one. I just love moments like that, mate, because I think we've said before, we're not in love with his football team. we found it hard to like, especially under Fotheringham. But stuff like that, there were other players jumping over and getting involved with the celebration. I like to see that, mate. It's connection with. That's what we need. You want your town. Darren Moore's been big on that this week, and I think that's what I've been really impressed with. Darren Moore's hardly had any time. You know, we played on Monday night, and the press, like you say, he'd take a bit out of us. Stuff. I did think we ran out of gas, but naturally though, because the way we were pressing, we played Monday. They had extra 48 hours rest or whatever, and that as well. But yeah, there was so much to like about it, and that as well. And the crowd really latched onto it early on. I was wondering what it was going to be like because, you know, there's a lot, obviously, love for Warnock. There was a lot of meh for the appointment of Moore on social media with a lot of people. But straight away, I felt the love for Moore in his ground. I felt the energy in the ground. And I honestly think even at half time when it were, you know, 0-0, after a while since I've seen this clapped off like we were. And I'm sat in a stand, which is normally one of the most critical in football, in my opinion, the kill in the bank. So for people to clap the team off, and even at the end, you know, I thought everyone like it was quite funny when they
stared into the clap.
Yeah, they were when they were attacking. There were people whistling in the town stands like for the whistle, like we were winning, but we were always on because people were tuned into the game, thinking this is going to be a good point. Dan Moore's done a great job, but yeah, it was so much to love about it yesterday and that as well. And yeah, massive respect for Moore for doing, you know, things straight away. And like he's been saying, he didn't want to come in, you know, and why should you? Because, you know, we were 3 unbeaten when he came in. He not totally change it, rip things up, but 1 or 2 smart tweaks. And I think we saw yesterday, for me, it's, yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, and then we come to the turning point, really, of the game is the substitutions around the 70-minute mark, isn't it? And this is where the game spun on its head, really. Unfortunately, I think what's quite important to do is to clarify the reasons why those substitutes were, because a lot of the information and feedback we got about Darren Moore was that his in-game management was poor, his use of subs was poor. So I think it's quite important to sort of point out that Nakayama was injured. I had absolutely no idea how it wasn't a booking on him, how he, you know, how they raked down the Achilles, but we got away with that penalty incident. So, you know, I'm not going to complain too much about Jeff the ref. He had to go off injured. He was certainly injured. Jonathan Hogg had to go off. Jonathan Hogg had a great game, by the way. He had to go off injured as well. Ice pack went straight on Jonathan Hogg, so he might be a doubt on Tuesday, unfortunately. Burgzorg had to go off. Sorba Thomas was had cramp. He had to go off. Karoma and Burgzorg were both absolutely shattered, as you would be pressing like that for 70 minutes. Killer, I'd be shattered after 5. And so there were forced changes, really, and there was only particularly one sub, which I didn't agree. I would always put Headley on over Jackson in a game like that because of it was the pace that was causing, you know, it was the pace of us and the strength which getting into, you know, the sort of first and second balls, which was causing Ipswich a problem. So I would have put Headley on for Nakayama, but it's not a big bone of contention or anything. Jackson didn't do too badly when he came on. It was more the Hudlin substitute I thought was perhaps the wrong one at the time. I know it's easy for me to say now in hindsight, but I did feel at the time it was the high press which was winning us the game effectively. And Hudlin came on, and Hudlin's probably not great at the press just yet. He tried. He absolutely tried. He worked hard. But as soon as Hudlin came on, Ipswich, to be honest, all Ipswich did was foul him. It was pretty much reminiscent of Peter Crouch international football. Ipswich were just ragging him all over the place. Again, he should have had 3 or 4 fouls, and then he put his arm out to stop someone at one point, and the ref was like, I gave him a long talking, like he was going to book him, and he must have felt absolutely like, what have we got to do? But for me, that I thought Harrott was the smarter substitute there, because Harrott would have been able to keep up with the pressing. You know, Harrott's fantastic at just running around like an angry little dog, isn't he? He's great at, you know, getting at people and biting at people's heels and stuff. And I thought Harrott would have been the better substitute at that moment in time rather than Hudlin, but Romani Edmonds-Green came on for Hogg, and I don't think Romani Edmonds-Green's a midfielder. I'm not going to dig him out or anything, but it's just, for me, it's not his role. I know he had that one good game, didn't he, last season, and I think he played well. I can't remember what it was his. Did he play well against Sheffield United there or someone? I'm trying to remember the game, but you know, he had, for me, but that was a lack of options. He didn't really have anyone else. Kasumi was out injured. Who else do you put in there? So it's really difficult to sort of have a go at Darren Moore for these substitutes, because they were forced on him all in a, you know, quick amount of time. He's been here for 5 minutes. and he had to do what he had to do. And I think it's only the huddling one which I kind of disagreed with slightly at that point, but I can see why he also did it, because he gives you that outlet, doesn't he? That sort of, not quite head on a stick. I think that would be doing him sort of an injustice, but he gives you that out ball, that long target, doesn't he? Where if you're under pressure, you can go long and he can maybe hold the ball up. But it was at that point really that Ipswich came back in, and all of a sudden Ipswich went from, in my opinion, and I might get hate for this, I didn't think Ipswich looked great, to be honest. Throughout the game, I expected a lot more. But once we made those subs and they were allowed to play out, then it was like, right, this is the real Ipswich Town now. They all of a sudden turned up. And I think when you look at the stats at the end of the game looks quite equal. But up until this point, for me, it was fairly one-sided. But then the stats from the last 20 minutes really give Ipswich, a real sort of flavour. And for how they played in the last 20 minutes, I think they'll argue they deserved a point. And, and it came. And Nichols made a great save, didn't he? It was absolutely great save from Ladapo, wasn't it? Ladapo's touch, and Helic had to make a great tackle to stop Ladapo getting in as well. And then they score, and you can argue there's maybe a foul on Hudlin in the build-up. You can maybe say Hudlin's got to be a bit stronger and do a bit more. Either way, it's one of those. And then the ball comes in from the right-hand side, and it kind of takes the deflection and falls nicely for Williams, and it's an easy goal. It's disappointing, but maybe for that period of pressure, it was what Ipswich deserved. But it was a little bit deflating for me, because I was really sort of happy with how Huddersfield played. It was exciting to watch. It was fun. And I thought at that point we deserved to be winning the game. And then Ipswich got their teeth into it, and it was just a bit of a disappointing ending, because I just felt with the effort they put in, they kind of deserved a little bit more. But this is what happens when you play a team top of the league. You go off your game for 10, 15, 20 minutes and you get punished, and Ipswich are a decent side, and they proved that, didn't they?
Yeah, I feel a bit of a hypocrite because I went on radio, he's going to have a go up more, but I just kind of said, because again, we praised him on Monday night for the subs that earned a point in my opinion, but like I say, it's limited changes, so it's not exactly Alex Ferguson and what have you. It would be pretty obvious.
You don't have the squad. Again, we don't exactly have a lot of depth, do we?
So again, I think the change, there's no doubt about it, that who came off the bench, he ain't as good as who left the pitch. Simple as that. And it showed. And you just hope that we can hang on in that as well. I just thought they only had one way. They only got one way to play, which you knew they were going to come battering at us as well. And it was such a disappointing goal. And then it was really weird after that, because for me, my first thoughts were, right, let's get a point. And because part of you thinks, as soon as they had a +7, all the crowd were like, come on. And I was thinking, no, I wanted to see +2 or 3, because we were done. We were out of gas.
Yeah. There's only one team going to win it, wasn't there, at that point?
We were. Another 5-10 minutes, I think they were going to win. And like you said, Matt, he's been in the building 9 days, Darren Moore. So he's finding out about their players. It made me laugh. I was getting a few texts from a few people. Should have done this, you should have done that. We know so-and-so could do this, we know so-and-so could do that. But he's not been Huddersfield Town manager for longer than 9 days. So it's like, he's going to find out about these players. Unfortunately, we're going to be learning, maybe from Ellis. But I think the thing that I couldn't really get too mad about, like I said, you could have brought on Headley. And he did, to be fair, he did move Ruffles on. He switched Ruffles and Ben Jackson over on the flanks after the goal, which to me were almost like an admittance of shit. Or maybe that should have been done at the start. But yeah, no, it was deflating, because it was a weird one, Matt, because they asked me on the radio, it's like, do you think we deserve to win? And it's really, I walked out of there thinking, I didn't know really. Probably. But up until 70 odd minutes, 100%. And then it was like the last 20 minutes, you kind of like, you got to, it's a 90-minute game, isn't it? You've got to give Ipswich credit for coming back into it. Yeah, it's simple as that. No.
It's 70 minutes though. The thing is, I know I was fuming at the time. I'm very quick to turn on people. And Darren Moore at 72 minutes yesterday, when I wasn't aware Huggy was injured, I was fuming. I thought we controlled the game because we gave them nothing in the centre of midfield, really. Hutchinson did a bit of work, but he had to kind of go out wide to get it, and he just wasn't causing the same problems. And as soon as he's taking Hoggy and Cromer off at the same time, and then Nakayama's waved, I think, during the first substitution. Now, I don't think Nakayama was going off until the substitution for Hogg and Cromer had started, because he sat down again, waved, and it took a little bit longer for who came on for Ben Jackson came on for him, I think, didn't he, last? And there was a little bit of a delay, and then that's a third of your team, isn't it? And yesterday, Hogg and Nakayama, they were best players we had between Hogg and Utah. So straight away you knew what the next 30 minutes were going to be. And with this year's added on time being 10 minutes nearly every second half, 30 minutes against Ipswich, when we took off basically the engine, I thought, of the game, was always going to be risky. And okay, you can sit back now and you can say, well, we don't have the players, but then, and he doesn't know them. You're right, Kosi. He doesn't know the players that we've got and their abilities just yet. But I think we did have different options for yesterday. I think we could have brought Tom Lees on for Johnny Ogg and then Chuck Ruffles into midfield. And I know it's not necessarily the most standard thing to do, but just somebody who had the pace of the game, all of a sudden, the half of the midfield, I totally lost how we were defending against Ipswich. I thought Reg looked out of place totally when he came on. I thought he looked very slow. It didn't look like he wanted to engage in runners. And again, he's not played that much this season. And yesterday's game was a very good quality, played at a very high pace. And you've changed a third of your team for the last 30 minutes against a team as high in confidence as possible. They've not lost at home. They've won every away game this season. And we were, okay, forced into it a little bit. But if Hogg could have just done another 5 minutes, 6 minutes, I think it had made a very big difference to how the game played out. Instantly, we changed everything. And from that moment, we were under so much pressure. We did so well because we were attacking with pace. We were counter-attacking with pace. And you're 1-0 up at home. Counter-attacking with pace is exactly how you close games out. And we brought Hudlin on. And I love Hudlin. I love watching him. I tweeted about it last week. He's fascinating to watch. He's very unorthodox at the best of times. He's pretty good at his feet. But yesterday, all of a sudden, you kind of became very isolated because everybody else had to sit so deep when we weren't trying to push out and we were just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And he looked out of water a little bit as well.
I find it hard I find it hard to criticise that because I'm praising the great work Hudlin did for the goal on Monday. So how come Moore you don't know him? So it's like, how can he right, mate, I think it's a bit of a different argument if Moore's been in a year or, and that shoot me down if I'm wrong here, but I don't think there's anyone on our bench, the coaching staff, that it's a brand new set of coaches. There's no one from the old regime, is there? Or is there?
I get that, because it's just
still got all the analysts, though, don't you, with the laptops in the stadium? And
no one's
going to
it
was the pace.
I don't think you should put him on. They're going to do that. So unfortunately, we are going to pay the price. He'll learn a lot with that one more. Shame it cost us a goal, but it's like, I find it.
That's the key, though, Kosi, isn't it? It's how he goes forward now if we don't do it again. To me, pace was winning us that game up top. And that outlet of the long ball over the defenders, their goalkeeper swept up quite a lot yesterday because our direct balls were really quite good and caused so many problems. We kept turning it switch around. They kept having to running back, and teams that dominate possession hate that. They absolutely hate it because you're whacking them back 30, 40 yard and they're starting from so much deeper. And we kept doing it and it worked and it worked and it worked. And from that moment, we couldn't do it anymore. And he doesn't know everybody. And I don't expect it to happen again. I think he will adapt. I think Sorba Thomas started yesterday because he got that wrong against Coventry. I can complain about his defensive frailties, but when it comes to attacking, he's probably one of the better weapons that we've got. And we looked at a different team with him starting yesterday. So he learned. And I just hope he does again with Hudlin, because I think to close that game out yesterday, it required a like for like. And I think Harrott would have been a little bit better of an option for us to close that game out than Hudlin. But then you are right. I thought Hudlin was fantastic against Coventry. So you can justify it by saying, well, he kind of deserved it because he played a part in the equaliser.
Doesn't it worry you guys, though, already that we've said before our first 11 it should be all right, but the big cracks and creaks already. We've got Nakayama. The last thing I think we need is a game this Tuesday. We've got it. It's a nightmare for me, that. But these players carrying stuff. We've seen Kazumo injured. We've obviously, we've got just a few players that are not fully fit, in my opinion, and stuff. And you just showed. It is what it is, but it's a bit frustrating. Obviously, Danny Ward's out. We're desperate for a striker. I think I don't want to make it downbeat because it's been an upbeat pod, but it feels like we're on this great run. We've done really well. But I look today, I think we're like 1 point off or 2 points off second bottom. We've done a lot of work, but it's a difficult one. The backups are not good enough. We know that, and Moore's going to have to do a lot of jigging and, like you say, square pegging round holes. He got it wrong with Reg probably yesterday, but it does concern me a little bit. Does that? But I suppose other teams will be saying we've not got a backup like the first team and stuff. But I thought Ipswich had strong subs and ours were just not good. But no, what do you reckon, Matt? Do you think are you not as concerned as me? But just there's a few injuries, a few creaks where we're struggling a bit. I think, haven't we?
No, we all know we've got no depth really. Defensively, we're okay, aren't we? We know we lack a striker. That's no secret. We say it every week. We should have signed a striker. Didn't sign a striker, so now we've got to deal with what we've got. It gives opportunities to Hudlin and Harrott. they've got to take it. It's similar with midfield as well. Josh Osterfield's got to take that. If Hogg gets injured, Josh Osterfield's got to take it. David Kasuma's got to take it. It's that sort of small squad which they've kind of created, but it does lack game changers, I think, like genuine game changers as well. You look at the bench. I mean, Headley's got a lot of good attributes to him, hasn't he? But is he a game changer for that left wing back position? Not really. Sorba Thomas goes off on the right. Is Tom Edwards a game changer? No. Tom Edwards can play defensive midfield, by the way. He did in America, but I don't know. I don't know whether he's a better option either. Again, midfield, we said for a while, didn't we, over the summer, we lack midfielders. We lack first choice midfielders. We've got Ben Wiles. Ben Wiles has done fine. Good energy. I thought he played well. There were a couple of snap passes which were really good to set people away. I really enjoyed. If he gets injured, because he's been carrying things, who replaces him? Because Kasuma's injured. Again, that's another jiggle that you need to solve. Diarra maybe comes in and you have to switch the system again and things like that. So, yeah, we do lack a lot of depth in this squad. Even Scott Hye's not exactly flavour of the month with a lot of Huddersfield fans, but he's a body that can play a position for 10-15 minutes at a time, and he's out as well. People probably don't want to see Scott Hye on the pitch, but I don't think he's as bad as a lot make out, which is my opinion. But yeah, we really lack depth, because just to answer it shortly, I know I've gone around the houses, but yeah, we lack depth. But when you're a club like Huddersfield Town, you can't really afford the luxuries of a massive squad, can you? It's just the way I think we will roll with it. And when the academy comes back in, maybe that will produce more players coming through that you can potentially throw in at that point. But that's not going to be for years yet. So we'll have to fill it. But maybe there's a few loans that we needed that can just fill some gaps potentially.
Johnny Pernogget were like rolling back the years, wasn't it, yesterday? But so good, and it's just so frustrating, isn't it, that it's such a key area in midfield, isn't it? And then he's killing. I mean, but we knew the rules on Kazuma when we bought him. We knew that. I'm afraid we can't complain. It's like buying something from the shop and like taking it back, saying, "Hang on a minute, I never thought of that." We knew, but yeah, it's a blow, that, because ideally you'd love to maybe rest. Like if Kazuma feet maybe all got bench on Tuesday or whatever, but now and like I say, Wiles still, I still wonder if he's not fully there. It's a huge concern, and I mean, obviously, Oya Pender, but I think he's miles off. But he's not really what we need, really. This is kind of attacking midfielder. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, mate.
I mean, the other thing is, you look at Jack Redoni last year, and Jack Redoni shouldn't have been playing, 46, or shouldn't have been starting 46 championship games last year, really, from where he came from. But you look at him from then to now and the improvement that he's made. So maybe, like I say, maybe we bring someone in like an Osterfield, a Diarra, and the improvement that you'll see might not be immediate, but going forward in the long term, medium and long term, it could potentially do them a world of good. The issue is making sure you've got a good enough team out on the pitch to pick up points, isn't it? And that's the key in the short term. But it certainly won't hurt a lot of these young players in the medium to long term. And like I say, with Redoni, it's done wonders, and he's one of our best players now, isn't he? He's on fire at the minute. He's Jack Redoni. Yeah, let's talk about players that have impressed us. So we'll all pick up. I've picked two, but I'll go with Yuta Nakayama first. And for me, that was probably Yuta's best game for Huddersfield that I can remember yet. I thought his intelligence is just brilliant, isn't it? For being able to overlap and underlap, and just there's certain things that you can't measure, because I've picked out his two key passes, 1 assist. Passing accuracy 64%, which is obviously going to be lower when you're passing forwards instead of sideways. But it's the positional intelligence which you can't really measure, and him moving into areas. And he was absolutely key to that second phase of pressing as well. And it's his press which creates the goal, and it's his press which creates the chance for Karoma, where it hits the bar. Where it loops up and hits the bar as well. And I thought he was outstanding. It just feels like the poor guy can't get a break. Because last season, just as he was looking to just finally get to grips with things, he did his Achilles, and he has his best game for Huddersfield Town, and he's going off with an Achilles problem again. And I just hope it's nothing too serious, and we see him back sooner rather than later, because for me, he was a real cut above what we've seen in that area for a number of years, probably since Harry Toffolo. But very different to Harry Toffolo. But for me, his intelligence, his positional intelligence, and his ability to pick passes and time the passes as well for runners, brilliant. And we don't really see defenders who can pick passes out like that from the back, do we? So for me, Yuta Nakayama was excellent. Was he man of the match? One of them, but I think one of them. I think one of you guys will pick the man of the match, maybe Killer. But Kosi, who did you? In fact, no, I'll go Killer because I think Kozi's gonna
just touch on Nakayama, Matt. He just oozes class, doesn't he? I think if you were buying him now, from what do we pay for him? Was it free or
free? Yeah, it was a free from Holland.
Class, mate. I've said the last couple of podcasts, where does he fit in? I think Killer might have kind of nailed it there, almost like kind of a wing back. I think offensively he added so much yesterday as well, and I do think we've got that, defensive solidity as well, which we didn't kind of see from. I don't want to nail him, he's a young guy, but Ben Jackson. But yeah, it's like you say, my heart went out to him because he carried on, didn't he? It was so frustrating. You could tell he wasn't fit to carry on, but his pride, he didn't want to. He's probably thinking, "Oh no, please, not be injured again." And it was a horrible moment, wasn't it, when he went down again, and you just knew the ref came over, and their fans were like, "It's cheating," and all this lot. But I thought, there's no way this guy's cheating. And yeah, mate, it's just we haven't got many class players, I would say, or players who can play. I don't think of the word. Players who can just play in it's different gear, and Yuta Nakayama just cruised the last couple, in my opinion, just cruising some of his games. He looks better than a low division, a lowly championship club to me, mate. But please not a bad injury.
He just looks class, doesn't he? Everything he does is perfect. I can't. You guys might correct me. Has he made a mistake? A memorable mistake while playing for us? I can't really.
Oh, don't ask Mark Fotheringham because he absolutely hammered him, didn't he, for that Rotherham goal? Where it was like Japanese centre back. Did he sometimes on crosses into the box he can get manhandled a bit? I think was the point Fotheringham was making, but
right.
But not lately. No, certainly not.
He's a footballer. He's a proper football. He could. I think you could play him in any position and he can do a job. His vision's perfect. His touch is unbelievable. It's effortless. You'll watch him, as soon as he brings it down, it's away from him and he's away. There's no transition. There's no slowing down and trying to work out what's next. I admired that about him. And obviously they're very different players, but that similar kind of, when they get it, they've got time. They've got so much time on the ball. They're always 5 yards further off every other man compared to when everybody else gets the ball. It just gives them that little bit of movement. And that's why things happen when he gets the ball. He does the work before he gets it. And that's why it looks so easy. It doesn't look like he has to dribble past two players. He doesn't have to, because when he gets it, he's already in that right position. So he's the best player we've got at the moment for me, and he's the most improved and the most exciting going forward. But then there's a couple more. You can't not like Josh Koroma from turning it around compared to where he was last year. He's back to his best that it was like under the Cowleys for me. I think he's just, when he gets the ball in that final third again, you feel like something's going to happen with him. You just feel like he's going to create something, or there's going to be a decent shot. But the person I'm actually the most impressed with, and it wasn't man of the match yesterday, or it was for me my skewed thinking, but I really like how Ben Wiles plays. I like how he enables the rest of us to play. I don't think it's any coincidence that Jack Rodoni's last couple of games has again looked like he's took a step forward, because he doesn't have to worry now even less about who's playing behind him. Wiles, again, he's a very clean player. I don't think he misplaced a pass yesterday. He's never out of position, and he just seems to accommodate both Hoggy and Hoggy's lack of pace. You'll see Wiles, if Hoggy steps up a little bit further, cutting in, just covering him, just playing as Hoggy's sweeper. Now, nobody else has done that before, not without looking so deep that we get further and further back. He's just got that intelligence of being able to be in the right position at the right time. And I think he's a bit of a bargain. When Rotherham fans are a bit, again, I'm with you on Scott Eye as well, Matt. I think when you're a centre midfielder, it's sometimes very difficult to stand out. So what I like looking at in midfield is if I can see a problem, if I can see an issue, if we're losing that midfield battle, and we haven't last couple of games, and it's because we've got a really good unit in there. Like I say, I am worried if Hoggy's out injured. If he misses a period of time, I think Kasumu could do a job. But apart from that, there's nobody there that can do it just yet. If Rodoni's out, I still like Brahima Diarra. And I think with the midfield option that we've got now, he's going to have a little bit more free reign with Hoggy and Wiles behind him. But there's so many players that have just stepped up a bit. And I think the worry was with Warnock leaving, that'd be the opposite, would regress really quickly. And they'd go back to the shadow of themselves where the confidence was lacking, and you could visibly see it from the stands. But it's just not there. And it feels like there's a real unity just from watching it and seeing them again. And it feels like everybody knows the job. but it comes to me down to consistency in that midfield area, which both Utah and Ben Wiles are a major part of.
I think as well, just little things though, like where we celebrate our goals. Coventry, you had like 6-7 lads knee slide key and at that. If people are united, you don't get that. And again, yesterday I mentioned it earlier, but people jumping in the crowd and stuff. It does seem united front, and this is quite. Matt's just sprung this on us today about the players. So luckily we've all picked different ones, but I've got to mention again Darren Burgzorg. It's incredible. Like when we got him, I think everyone else was eyeing up his stats. Like, God, this is a striker. Like I said, but he's a winger and he's been around a bit, and you never know what you're going to get, do you? But incredible showboat. I think he's even bragging about it on his Instagram. But it's like it's kind of stuff that'll probably get you at two. Hopefully, someone will try and because that's bad. This 2 footman gets sent off, and he obviously escapes injury free. But I couldn't stop laughing at that yesterday because I look at the clock. It was 79 minutes when it happened. So I'm thinking, and he's charging off towards the corner. I'm thinking, does he think it says 89 here? It's just like, mate, come on. And then he just stood on the ball. It was just hilarious. But a real character. I think Town fans are going to love him, and they already are. But he's snapshot. He's got so much going for him in that as well. And again, obviously for free, and in his history, we're going to see some, maybe tepid performances. But when you're going to have game changers and people getting the ball. When he gets the ball, I don't know what's going to happen. I love it. I absolutely love that.
He doesn't know what's going to happen. That's the wonderful thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun.
Yeah, he is. And
we were saying, weren't we, pre-season that one of the things about watching Huddersfield Town's a bit dull because there aren't players that you want to go and watch, and there aren't players that get you out of your seat and get you excited. He's definitely one of them, isn't he, mate?
Definitely, mate. I think we've been blessed with Dutch players, Clive Wannard, Dean Gorey. We've had some characters, haven't we, in that as well, don't we? Ken Moncal.
Yeah.
Going back the old,
We can't miss Van La Parra as well. Come on. He's got a bit of Van La Parra's about him. He has. He's got that same excitement. He's got a bit more end product than Van La Parra has already, but he's got that same thing. It's just when he gets it, we're going
same
forward.
Arrogance. Same arrogance.
You don't exactly, but you need that arrogance, I think, because that style of a footballer, as a winger, that you got a striker that's going to take on plays, you need that arrogance. It's a fine line between too much standing on a ball 79 minutes and nearly losing the game in the end. And if that had happened, we look back at that a little bit differently. But he's just like you say, he's got the right amount of arrogance that we all love to get behind. And it's just nice that he's got a Town shirt on for a change.
It looks like he's enjoying his life and his football. And you can see why Darren Moore, I think, has come now because part of you thinks he could have sat, but there's people to work for there. There's some rough diamonds there, isn't there? We mentioned Diarra in the past. Obviously, Warnock got a nice little tune out of him. And he's probably looked at that thinking, he mentioned again after the interview yesterday, there's so much more, I think on Friday after the press conference, so much more come from these guys than there is. I think he's just, obviously, the injury's kicking in. I think if we could get his best 11 out, I think we could go anywhere, although I've been watching Leicester today, maybe not there. But it's, honestly, there's a lot to be positive about. But just looking at the table, maybe getting a kind of some 5 unbeaten, but mate, it's going to be a proper scrap, innit? I think you think, we should be all right. We've got enough about us, and we probably should be. But and it's too early really to be thinking about stuff like that. But which quarter of the table going to be? But I think we'll give anyone a game. But yeah, I mean, I know it's Sheffield Wednesday games away, but you just know what's coming, don't you? They're absolute garbage. They hate Chansiri. They lose every game. You know what's coming, don't you?
It feels like that time I went to. Feels like that time I went to Elland Road when they'd sacked Brian McDermott the night before, doesn't it? A little bit like
Don't
that.
ring me up for the pod next week if we lost that.
We'll come to that later. I think Jonathan Hogg's worth a mention as well. He's created a chance. His passing rate was 68%, which is lower than usual, but that's because a lot of them were passes into the final third as well, which is great to see that Hoggy doing as well. And tackling, got a couple in, clearance, interception, 6 recoveries, which was really good as well from Jonathan Hogg, which shows, he's attacking that second ball and getting in on the second balls, which I think has maybe been something which has dropped off a bit lately, but we're back on it. Great performance. Hopefully he's not too badly injured. We don't have a view from an Ipswich fan this week. Usually I have an opposition view at this point. I did send a message to one. Unfortunately, he's not replied. But, if we get one from him later on, then we might post it out as an individual one. A couple of things to finish on. We've got about 10 minutes and then we'll finish it. But self-serving beer, I didn't see it. I was in the Riverside. Kosi was in the Kilner. Pos was in the south stand and Killer was in the north stand. Nobody saw this self-serving beer, but sounds like a fairly decent idea. I know it blew a few minds, didn't it, on the internet, but very quickly, decent idea. Anything to stop the queues or improve the queues? It's not a bad thing, is it?
It's pretty standard in Australia. They're in it more or less every stadium going, and it's just easy. It's a lot quicker than anything we've had here. So anything that's quicker than the kiosks in the stadium's always going to be a step forward, isn't it? Because it's been pretty atrocious recently. Well, recently as in since 1994 when it opened. So it's apart from when no one was there, like when we got 6,000 against Millwall, it was pretty easy that day on where Frank Sinclair bagged a penalty, I think, in the fog, and you couldn't even see it from one end of the stadium.
You still got it. You couldn't get a pie at Yorkshire City Cup final. You still hold it against the club, mate.
That's it. I've got it on a chalkboard. I'll have to show everybody it one day. But anything that's feasible, it's just good in it. It is a step forward. The stadium's fantastic. It looks beautiful, but there's infrastructure within it that everyone's been pretty open with. That it needs to take a bit of a step forward. And if this is the first part of it, then it's only good news for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're going to get used to stuff like this from Kevin Nagle. It's good, isn't it? Exactly. Some other fans were like laughing at us. We're like, God, welcome to the 21st century, what have you? But yeah, I'm just hoping that we can. Obviously, do a lot of negative. Oh, bloody cash, you can't pay any cash. But God, I don't think that we pay for. I don't think cash will be around in a few years. But it's not a money podcast. But yeah, it's no. This is what I want to see, and I think the next couple of years things will be, will change a little bit. And I'll tell you what, we're interesting thing, Matt. I don't know how I bumped across. Sometimes X, I call it now, in Twitter, but you bump into stuff that people you don't follow. But someone, I think Giants had a light show or something, didn't they? Before one of their games. Yeah. So Kevin Nagle had said, "Yeah, that sounds a good idea." But my only worry is knowing that KSTL, if we turn the floodlights off, they might not come back on.
Yeah,
the game abandoned.
Let's move it on. So speaking of having too much beer, Kosi, or maybe a different substance, bit tetchy at the end, wasn't it? With when they scored.
You know what, mate? It's one of those, isn't it? I think when you get, I saw it. I know limited numbers, and there's a big divide between Coventry and Huddersfield fans in the stand there. But loads of our lot rushed their end, and loads of our lot. There weren't many there, but you know what I mean. So there's a bit, and there were a bit of gesturing and stuff. But we saw it a bit worse, I thought, yesterday, and that as well. And there was some. I saw some few punches get thrown, stewards get involved in that as well. But we were saying before, Killer, there's 100%. I'm not seeing things here, but there's no divide anymore. The number of times I've seen some of these away day things, or Middlesbrough, Huddersfield, or Norwich at Huddersfield, and these town fans gone on and said, no, it's half is 2,400 away, and the rest is Huddersfield. But yeah, but I think the point is when you look at it now and you're getting the ground, I'm thinking, bloody hell, there's no divide there. So inevitably there's stuff, but there was stuff getting thrown, and then when they scored, they were like they were a bit naughty, but they proper came over and they were like, come on then, and some of the guys did, and stewards got involved. But it's like it's an awkward one, because it feels like to me again, I'm definitely not seeing things, but it's like, right, if there's empty seats, let's get them filled and that as well. But it does make me depressed really that people can't go together. I don't know if anyone's seen that Real Sociedad Athletic Bilbao kind of thing yesterday, which gone viral, where the guys, because it's a real friendly, like past derby, and there were an incredible scene where they're doing a Poznan Real Sociedad. There's this Athletic Bilbao guy just stood there, just smiling with his arms folded. There's like hundreds of people just bouncing around it, but there's no bother. But obviously, it's very tribal in this country as well, and it just, I don't want to over exaggerate it stuff, because I know there were one or two things from what I've heard after the game, but it's just, I don't like. We don't want to see stuff choked, and I get it is part. It does. It's a strange one, but a lot of people like to rush away fans, don't they, when they scored? I don't. But you see, when I used to be in SAS, I'm like, first thing people want to do is just run towards the away fans, but I don't get it. But yesterday we're a bit naughty, and I'm just thinking, obviously we've got bigger fish to come, or whether they'd give Leeds that, obviously March, that kind of right up to the divide. It'll be interesting in that as well. But it's I don't think QPR we need to worry about that. But yeah, just it wasn't good really in that as well. But at some of that, it was really, their fans were a bit naughty. They were proper hanging over. Like there's giving a bit out, but there was So yeah, a bit poor really. Yeah,
I didn't see anything, but apparently some trouble down by the coach as well, which you obviously don't want to the
It's a crap bottleneck though, Matt, isn't it? Coming out of that ground.
it's not ideal, is it?
No.
I think we'll finish on a positive as well. I thought what was really good was two sets of fans coming together for a legend of both clubs. People who did the walk for Marcus Stewart, miles for Marcus, which is fantastic to see. The long walk, I think people are still available to sponsor as well, which all the proceeds, I believe, go to MND and the foundation, which Stephen Darby's, we've seen the ex-Bradford player, the foundation that he's helped set up as well, which is a really good place for it to go. But yeah, well done everybody who did the miles for Marcus, and everybody who contributed. And we're looking at ways which we can try and do something as well from a podcast side, which stay tuned for. I'm sure we'll come up with eventually. Things work slowly in TTC Towers, don't they, Kosi? But yeah, fantastic, mate, wasn't it? To see so many people turn out for a guy who means a lot to the people of Huddersfield and Ipswich.
Brilliant, Matt. I don't know if you remember in the summer, but I remember a good friend of the pod, Andy Kay, was messaging Kevin Nagle. So big respect to Kevin Nagle, Matt, because I think you've got to remember this isn't Dean Hall's show anymore. So Kevin Nagle can go a different route wherever he wants, but he's been massive about community, and the thing that we all love about being Town fans, that we're different to Man United or Tottenham or what have you. We are connected. I'm sure they've got their community connections as well, but feels like we do so much more for people. So no surprise yesterday, the great man in town and that as well, looking well. We've got to say that as well. And yeah, so many people, there were people tweeting me during it because I put a tweet out and stuff. So I was getting up Castle Hill. I mean, to be fair, I've walked stuff there, but not part of a 15-mile walk. And they were saying, God, it's been bloody hard and stuff like that as well. But again, mate, just absolutely fantastic and makes you proud to be Huddersfield Town fan as well. And yeah, just he's still very upsetting, isn't he? And very raw, with Marcus Stewart and the memories that he's brought to a lot of Town fans of a certain age, and to have this horrible disease. But again, that's why I love when football kind of comes together. It's just a shame I'm just mentioning there where there's a bit. I get it with a goal and emotions run high, but I just love to. You see it all the time in Spain where opposition fans are chatting to each other and people getting on and even having some games, against each other and stuff. I could be totally wrong here. I'm showing my age, but remember, I think the Young Terriers back in the day, Huddersfield Sportsmen, I'm sure they used to have games against whoever we were playing, opposition fans and stuff like that as well before the game.
Neil on the pod. He was an ex-Young Terrier, wasn't he?
Maybe some people who's watching, some of the people in the 40s like myself, could message him. But I just love it when Football's United stands together for one of both of their own and stuff like that as well. And I still can't believe that. There's no way. I know it's been done to death, but there's no way Steve Bruce is selling a striker when we're flying. So, but anyway, that's for another debate, mate, innit? But fantastic day, and yeah, proud of everyone who did the walk, and massive respect. I'm sure you'll be feeling it today, guys. Still,
absolutely fantastic, and I think it's an appropriate place to end the podcast, isn't it? On that note, and wishing all the best to a legend in Marcus Stewart as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in this week, and we'll be back after probably the Sheffield Wednesday game. I'm not too sure if there'll be any follow-up to the Birmingham one just yet, but we'll definitely be back next weekend, and we'll catch you then. Thank you very much.
I sold this club at all, a non-existent transfer window, and Neil's gone and all. But when I ran the club, it wasn't always great. But Wagner's picture on my wall, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad. The fans have gone cold. I'm wondering why. I sold this club at all, a non-existent transfer window. And Neil's gone and all. But when I ran the club, it wasn't always great. But Wagner's picture on my wall, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
Dear Kev, I I'd like to welcome you to Huddersfield Town, famous for rugby league Harold Wilson and David Brown. I hope you enjoy your trip here and it's not all for nothing. I could show you around town, I can meet you at the post office or something. We can nip down to Birkby, Marsh, Golker or Dalton. But anyways, fuck it, what's been up man, how's your 2 daughters? My girlfriend's pregnant too, I'm about to be a father. And if I have a daughter, guess what I'ma call her? I'ma name her Nagel. I hear you keeping on Neil and Ronnie too, I love it. Any fans that don't like those two, just tweet them, tell them to shove it. I know you probably hear this every day, but I'm your biggest fan. I even used to play as Sacramento Kings on NBA Jam. I got a room full of all your posters and your pictures, man. I've even replaced my wedding photo with a picture of Uncle Sam. Anyways, I hope you get this, man. Hit me back, just a chat. Truly yours, your biggest fan. And my name's Stan.
The fans have gone cold, I'm wondering why. I sold this club at all. A non-existent transfer window. And Neil's gone and all. But when I ran the club, it wasn't always great. But Wagner's picture on my wall, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
Dear Kev, you still ain't called or wrote. I hope you have a chance. I ain't mad, I just feel a bit daft that you're tweeting other fans. If you didn't want to talk to me outside of Marston's, you didn't have to. But you could have signed an autograph for Matthew. That's my POS pal. He's around 40-year-old. We waited in the blistering cold for you for 4 hours and you just said no. That's pretty tight, man. You're like his fucking hero. He wants to be just like you, man. He likes you more than Dino. I ain't mad though, I just don't like being lied to. Remember when we met in Lockwood? You said if I'd write you, you'd write back. Because we were queuing for Dixon's. I gave you a thumbs up and said it's a fucking dream. Then my lad got pissed off because we couldn't afford ice cream. I know you've hardly signed anyone, we haven't been here long. But we can't be losing out on players to Rotherham or West Brom. I ain't really got out else, so when town scrap I get depressed. I even got a tattoo of your name across my chest. Sometimes I show people down Slubbers just for adrenaline, I tell you. It's such a sudden rush for me, I love it. See, everything you say is real, I respect you because you tell it. My girlfriend's jealous because I talk about you 24/7. But she don't know you like I know you, Kev, no one does. She don't know what it was like for people like us growing up. You gotta call me, man, I'll be the biggest fan you'll ever lose. Sincerely yours, Stan. P.S. We should go for a beer together too.
The fans have gone cold, I'm wondering why. I sold this club at all. A non-existent transfer window. And Neil's gone and all. But when I ran the club, it wasn't always great. But Wagner's picture on my wall, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
Dear mister, I'm too good for Ronnie and Neil, what a farce. This'll be the last package I ever send your ass. Neil's been here for 7 months and now he's gone, he don't deserve it. I don't care if Darren Moore's replacing him, Neil Warnock's perfect. So this is my cassette I'm sending you, I hope you hear it. I'm in the car right now on M62 on the freeway. Hey Kev, I've been drinking at Magic Rock, you dare me to drive? You know that song we all sing called Smile a While? About how town will play up and bring back the cup? Well now we won't, because you fucked us by getting rid of them. That's kinda how this is, you could have rescued us from drowning. Now it's too late, we're 20,000 downers now, it's lousy. And all I wanted was for Neil to stay, that's all. I hope you know I ripped all your pictures off the wall. I loved you, Kev. We could have had a drink together, think about it. You ruined it now, I hope you can't sleep and you dream about it. I hope you lose your phone and you can't tweet about it. I hope your conscience eats at you and you can't breathe without me. See, Kev, shut up, love, I'm trying to talk. Hey, Kev, that's my girlfriend screaming in the trunk. But I'm not off to merry England following you no more. See, I'm not like you, because if I wear flip-flops with jeans, I'll look daft too. Well, gotta go, I'm almost at Scamondon Bridge now. Oh, bollocks, I forgot. How am I supposed to send this shit out?
Have gone cold, I'm wondering why. I sold this club at all. A non-existent transfer window. And Neil's gone and all. But when I ran the club, it wasn't always great. But Wagner's picture on my wall, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
Dear Stan, I meant to write you sooner, but I've just been busy. You said your girlfriend's pregnant now. How far along is she? Look, I'm really flattered you would call your daughter that. And here's an autograph from Matthew. You can put it with his purple Kings cap. I'm sorry I didn't see you at Dixon's. I must have missed you. I've seen your tweets asking if I like the fish and chips too. But what's this shit you said about me fucking up the club too? I say that shit's just clowning, dog. Come on, how negative are you? You got some issues, Stan. Let's give Darren some support. Let's get the John Smiths bouncing while we play this fantastic sport. And what's this shit about us going for a drink together? That type of shit'll make me not want us to meet each other. I really think you and your girlfriend need each other. Or maybe you should just treat her better. I hope you get to read this letter. I just hope it reaches you in time before you hurt yourself. I think you'll be doing just fine if you relax a little. I'm sorry Neil and Ronnie had to go, but Stan, why are you so mad? Try to understand that I do want to please you fans. I just don't want you to do some crazy shit. I read this one thing in the Examiner a couple of weeks ago that made me sick. Some dude was drunk and drove his car over Scamander Bridge, and he had his girlfriend in the trunk. She was pregnant with his kid, and in the car they found a tape, but they didn't say who it was to. Come to think about it, his name was... it was you. Damn.